Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings, America's #1 sportsbook app. With Ben White, I'm merely Mike Luke. All right, Arizona with a game, Ben, that a lot of people didn't think that Arizona would have in it. Yeah, again, basically down from the majority of the game. Don't get some of your peak performances, pardon the pun, from some of your best players. But Courtney Ramey at the end, we've talked all season about how this team steps up most when it matters most. And Courtney Ramey, again, made the shot that sealed the deal, Ben White.
Yeah, first of all, a heck of a basketball game from both teams. UCLA, Arizona, obviously neck and neck up until the end, and could have went either way. And, you know, Arizona had situations throughout the game where they struggled just because they weren't getting consistent play from their guards, and when they needed it most, Ramey stepped out. And then obviously UCLA had issues with their bigs fouling out earlier in the game, and you kind of felt like, all right, this is the opportunity for Arizona to really take momentum here, make a big three. That's what Courtney Ramey did. 8 lead changes throughout this game, just very neck and neck throughout the entire time.
And what really sticks up to me, and we want to hear all your comments. You guys know, you guys know to hop in there. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can. But the one thing, midway through the game, Courtney Ramey, Pelle Larsson, Cedric Henderson, 0 of 10 from the field, 0 of 10. And Arizona still is able to get back in this game and, again, win it at the very end, when it mattered most, obviously. But, man, this was just a team effort. And not only that, Arizona beat a really, really good UCLA team. And you look at the numbers from Arizona, they did not play well. This is not a good game. 19 of 52 from the field, 6 of 20. But at the end of the day, they backed the A. And, Ben, honestly, you know, joking aside, this was a gut check win type here against a really good UCLA team that, granted, was shorthanded. But you know what? Arizona's been shorthanded in these spots before as well.
It doesn't matter. And when you get up into this point in conference tournaments and as we turn the tables towards March, you're really going to see teams be shorthanded. I mean, obviously their injury with Clark is huge. They obviously had Bona out as well. But Arizona did one really key thing in this win, and they beat a really tough team that dominates down low physically. UCLA, you can make the argument, is the best defensive team in all of college basketball. They slow the pace down. They score 50 to 60 points per game. And as we know, we've watched Arizona, that's just not their style of play. And yet again, here we are talking about a second win on the year where Arizona was really able to slow the game down when they needed to be, take it possession by possession, and beat UCLA at their own game. Right. All well, you know, the guards are not performing. Like you said, Ramey had a 3. His only 3 of the game was that key 3 that got them up in this game. Tubelis did his thing inside, but Arizona obviously, too, had some issues with the front court. I mean, there just wasn't a level of consistency that we've seen throughout the week when it comes to going inside to Tabalo, especially. Tubelis had his points, but Arizona was able to find a way to win. And what does it matter? What does it matter this time of year?
Right.
Finding ways to win.
Finding ways to win, that's what matters. You know a way to find a way to win? The DraftKings Sportsbook app. Code word PHNX. Here's the deal. You can put down, if you're a new customer, you could put down $5, again, just $5, and get up to $200 in free plays. Now, again, you might be saying to yourself, Mike, what should I bet on? We told you that last game. You want to bet on the A. You want to back the A to the fullest right here. Not only do you want to back the A to the fullest, Ben White, you could get money by backing the A as well. Again, Shane Diefenbach was rooting like nonstop for the University of Arizona, as was Anthony Totri, as was Sean DePaz. All of the, I know he didn't back the A. It didn't matter.
Totri bet against them.
It's okay. It doesn't matter to me.
Totri bet against the A.
21 and up, Arizona only. Got a gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. But this is where we're at though, right now, Ben White. We talked about it back in the A right here on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And, you know, that's just the way that it is right there, my friend. And one other thing, Tap and Bottle. Our good friends Scott and Rebecca, they are down here right now. I'm going a little bit out of order right here. But our good friends Scott and Rebecca are down here. You can go to Tap and Bottle watch parties or go to Tap and Bottle downtown, and you can get 4 peaks or a variety of different drinks. Support local. Support our good friends right there, Scott and Rebecca. And, again, the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. All right, Azuolas Tubelis, Ben White, has been the key for Arizona all season long. He has been the guy. There are some naysayers, maybe some people that went to Syracuse, maybe went to Cronkite. I don't know, but I'm just kidding with you. But
I don't think there's many naysayers.
Yes, there's no naysayers for sure. But he really is he has been a godsend. I think going into the year, we had a lot of questions about where he was really going to be in the grand scheme of things with his mental makeup. And again, even though he didn't have a vintage second half by Tubelis performances and did have a vintage game, 19-14 still at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean,
big time stuff.
Yeah, if you hadn't watched a second of Azuolas Tubelis, and obviously we all have, but to say 19-14 isn't a vintage game, I think speaks to the level of what he's been able to bring to this team all year. He's one of those guys that Arizona's in a position, it's not necessarily a rebuilding season just because of how well they've done, but certainly going into the year, we didn't have the expectation this team was going to be in the top 10 conversation.
Right.
We just didn't.
Right.
I mean, you lost 3 guys to the NBA. You had a lot of questions on the guard spot. And what's been so nice about having somebody like Tubelis here is you know exactly what you're going to get game in and game out. And no matter what happens, whether it's Ramey not stringing together some points until that last key 3 that put the game essentially away for Arizona, or even guys like Henderson, who really kind of was off and on all year up until this week where he was able to be as consistent as he's been, it gives you that flexibility to let the development take place in the backcourt. And that's what having somebody like Tubelis has, and being able to count on him from a scoring perspective, somebody who works inside out, makes things so much more efficient and easy for Arizona on the offensive and defensive end. So he is the reason that Arizona is standing here tonight with the W for sure.
Yes, he's the reason. But again, we've talked about this all season, and I think what is so exciting about this squad, and by the way, hop in right here, 203 lives right now. Let's keep pushing that number right here. Lots of leaders of men out there. But we got to start with Oumar Ballo again. Not a vintage game again for him, but the thing, watching him up front, and I think the thing that a lot of people don't get when you watch him, because he's kind of a big dude, kind of a lumberer, but he wears you down. Yeah. And you look at it when Etienne, Spitter Boy as we call him here in Tucson, or David Nwabu goes out, yep. It's because he is wearing you down. He is so big, he is so physical, and he's a player that you just generally, you have a hard time dealing with.
Yeah, you do. I mean, when somebody's that big, as he is, and there were spurts tonight where, you kind of felt like maybe he could have been a little bit more aggressive going up for the dunk, but I think that has more to do with the officiating, which I'm sure we're going to get to here in a little bit more so than it is Ballo, but he can just be so automatic, and as long as you have that presence inside, it's going to be hard for any team to match up against him, and you saw that tonight.
All right, and we're going to talk a lot about the seeding right here. Everybody on here, you're smarter than me, so again, I need you to keep feeding the questions, going to try to get to us as many as possible, relying on you right here. But again, Tommy Lloyd, and this is something that I've noticed pretty much all season right here. The thing about Tommy Lloyd that is so unique, that is so refreshing, is he doesn't lose his cool. Now listen, our good friends over at PHNX Sun Devils, they root for Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley's a guy that loses his cool, but you know what? That's part of his shtick right there. Watching Tommy Lloyd right there, his teams never really panic. They don't, even in this game when UCLA got up 8, he calls a timeout. He gets into Pelle Larsson a little bit for sure. Yep. But at the end of the day, though, it wasn't anything where this team looked despaired. This team looked like, oh, gosh, we can't do this. Come right back out of there. And again, Pelle Larsson makes a big 3. Kerr Kriisa, who has not had his best performances, though, at the end of the day, makes a huge 3 as well. Yep. There was a ton of different guys here that you could say just really stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, and what I really like about him, and Jeffrey's made this point with us a couple nights ago, is
what does he know?
What does he know, right? Maybe he'll join us a little bit later.
Right.
But, he's one of those guys, with the way he coaches, he's so focused on the why.
Right.
Not the what.
Right.
You watch Mick Cronin the entire game. Every single possession, it's Tiger Campbell dribbling the ball up the court, stopping, past the key, looking over to coach saying, what do we do?
Right.
With Lloyd, you don't see any of that.
Right.
And there's even situations where, whether it's Kerr, whether it's Ramey, whether it's Henderson, all kind of had their ups and downs throughout the night and obviously contributed positively in different moments of the game. But despite who it is, Lloyd's always going to be able to kind of look at them and tell them, okay, here's what we need you to do, and here's why we need you to do it.
Yes.
And
he's very much a teacher.
He is a teacher, exactly.
Oh, by the way, real quick, Shane Diefenbach, I don't want to get in trouble. You guys know this. Pugs and Hugs sends a $2.99. So what am I supposed to do? Click on it?
Let's get to it. What does he say?
Okay, so I'm clicking on it, and it says, I don't know. Well, no, all it is it's a picture of a It's a picture of a cow. Baby lemon. It's a baby. All right.
Okay.
That's why we have Shane Diefenbach right here to bail me through when it matters. All right. Now, want to talk a lot about the seeding right here. What do you have, Ben White? It looked like you were about to say
Let's
something.
talk about Pelle Larsson, and Jose Roman in the comments, I think, makes a good point.
Jose L. Roman Jr.
L. Roman Jr.
Yes.
Appreciate you, Jose. Makes a great point. Pelle's defense on Jaquez, in his mind, was the biggest deal. Player of the year essentially neutralized in a big moment.
Well, we got to remember, Tommy Lloyd talked before the season, and when he was giving me a little bit of grief, I asked him a couple questions. First of all, I asked him about the nickname, the Tommy Gun. Didn't like it, said he doesn't want it. But then I asked him about Pelle Larsson, and he said, I think he could be in the contention for Conference Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
He didn't get that love this year, but you watch him. You watch what he did out there. He made life difficult for Jaime Jaquez. By the way, Tucson connection, Jaime Jaquez. Mother went to Pima Community College. But, yes, great point there by Jose L. Roman Jr.
Absolutely, and I think Pelle is one of those guys who, when he really comes off the bench like he has been in this role the past couple of months, it just does a world of wonder for him, I think, from a confidence standpoint. Somebody who comes in, knows exactly what he needs to do, and he took that matchup to heart, man. I know we talk a lot about Tubelis and talk about, double-double numbers just because of how good he is and just having meaningful, impactful games, but as good as it may look from Jaquez's perspective tonight, he did have 13 and 10, but he was definitely a guy who could have done a lot more. I mean, he was a guy who,
no doubt,
I think for the most part had more challenges getting to the rim than we've seen, throughout the last couple of weeks. And Larson's a big deal for that, for sure. He deserves a lot of kudos for that.
Now, listen, if you're a cool guy like Ben White, you fly, but not everybody's as cool as Ben White. People like Shane Diefenbach, Anthony Totri, Sean DePaz, they are going to be driving home tomorrow, as am I. Guess what is going to be a necessity for us? Circle K. We're excited to partner with our friends at Circle K. Check out your local Circle K for the best coffee, beers, snack selection, premium gas, and again, I like getting Funyuns. Funyuns, I think, are very, very good, very underrated. I also like peanut butter M&Ms. You can get them there as well. Or you might say to yourself, Mike, how'd you get so tall? How'd you get so muscular? Beef jerky. You can get it there as well. Again, we're excited to partner with our friends at Circle K. To kick things off, we've teamed up for an amazing opportunity giveaway. You can text PHNX to 31310 for an opportunity to win a $500 gift card. See show notes for details. But again, I speak for the PHNX Sun Devil crew. They will be making a pit stop at Circle K.
A $500 gift card? That's beef jerky for life right there.
That is, and that is protein for life,
yes,
my friend, right there. And me and the great John Schuster will be stopping by there as well. So again, Circle K and Illegal Pete's. Now, I've been to Illegal Pete's before, and the cool kids have been to Illegal Pete's in Tempe as well. Ben White, you have been to Illegal Pete's because I have been there with you at Illegal Pete's. You never leave Illegal Pete's without having a good time. Is this correct?
That is correct.
All right, and you're thinking to yourself, well, you know what? Nothing cures my bracket in a busted first round like fresh limes, tequila, and sweet agave. Try out an Illegal Pete's Coin Premium or frozen margarita. Stop by for happy hour 3 to 6 every day. Again, you can get nachos, great food. Again, my favorite phrase, you name it, they got it, but I only say it when they do have it right there. Okay, now, going back to this game, though, we got to talk, though, about what this means now for seeding.
Yeah.
I think it is impossible. When you look at their records now, Arizona, 28-6, UCLA 29-5. And again, nobody likes the fact that Jalen Clark is out for the year. Adem Bona didn't play today, but you know what? You play with who you got. Arizona has a better resume than UCLA. They've beaten UCLA 2 out of 3 times. You also have wins against Tennessee. You have wins again, like we talked about.
8 quad wins. 1 wins.
9 quad wins.
9 tonight.
Yeah. We don't want Brian Jeffrey to steal Brian Jeff to steal that important information that is already public right there. But Arizona's resume, let's be quite frank, kicks ass right now.
Yeah, it kicks ass, and I think we talked about it yesterday. The committee's really going to value good wins over bad losses this year. I think outside of Texas, they have 16 quad 1 wins.
Right.
So you're not going to catch that, obviously. But if you're an Arizona fan, it comes down to region. And whether it's Denver, whether it's Sacramento, we're going to find out tomorrow on Selection Sunday. But as long as you have that spot in the West, and I think at this point it'd be really, really hard not to lock them in at that 2 spot.
Right.
I think 1's kind of out of reach at this point. But 2 or 3 in the West, I'm cool with it. I'll take it all day. And at that point, you just have to see what happens. We'll get into the matchups. We got a lot more coming up next week on the channel when it comes to that. But you control what you can control, and
Right.
Arizona did exactly that in this tournament, winning it, doing what they did, dealing with whatever circumstances they were dealt with, taking care of an ASU team yesterday that obviously had nothing left to lose, nothing to lose. A shorthanded UCLA team that is really tough, and they obviously threw the kitchen sink at Arizona today, despite all those challenges. So control what you can control. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but Arizona's in a great spot because they will likely be in the West, and that's all you want if you're a fan.
All right, let's talk about the refereeing a little bit here. We got to address the elephant in the room here. Don't want to be mugged here. Pac-12 officials generally suck. We all know that. But I also, watching this game, though, I don't feel that there was a bias against Arizona per se, because there are some times Amari Bailey clearly did not foul on the dunk
Terrible.
right there. It was a terrible call.
Say what you want. That was awful.
Yeah. Azuolas Tubelis. Now why am I drawing a total blank here? Umar Ballo probably had some shuffles of the feet that weren't called. But again, Arizona also got screwed on some, at the end. It generally kind of evens out. Now again, I don't want to make up for mediocrity right there.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it just is what it is. Arizona was able to overcome that, though.
Yeah.
And generally in these kind of close games, unless it's ASU, which wins on like some prayer buzzer beater, Arizona generally wins these type of games right here. And again, I think that's a reflection of their coach, Tommy Lloyd.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, what happens in these types of games, I think in the first half, you never want to be the ref that is being talked more so about than the game. And you saw that a little bit in the first half. You saw that with the Amari Bailey dunk, which was clearly not an offensive foul. But like you said, Mike, it evens out. And especially in a game at the pace that these two teams played, I think you're going to see, a situation where that balances out. And right now, Arizona's in a great spot, and they obviously benefited from it.
All right, now, we're very privileged. He's up against the clock because, again, he's with the team right here. But Brian Jeffries, Brian, you've covered a lot of Pac-12 tournaments, a lot of Arizona wins in the Pac-12 tournament. What were your thoughts right here on this game and what Arizona being able to win this game?
Probably what Tommy Lloyd said this afternoon, that it could very well be a grinded-out game, and the defense was going to dictate the outcome tonight, and it did. And both teams played outstanding defense. I think, UCLA deserves some credit there. The fact Arizona was down by 9 there in the second half, they kind of turned up their defensive pressure and forced UCLA into some bad shots. You can't say enough about Arizona's bigs inside. I thought Pelle Larsson was outstanding tonight, and that offensive rebound that he got out and that Ramey ended up getting the game winner, that shouldn't be overlooked, because as big a shot as Ramey's was, if not for the second chance opportunity given by Pelle Larsson, Arizona may not have won the game.
Right, and he made Jaime Jaquez, the Pac-12 Player of the Year, work for everything out there, just from a physicality perspective. And Tommy Lloyd talked before the season. He said, I expect Pelle Larsson to be a guy that could be in contention for Conference Defensive Player of the Year. He understands angles. He understands physicality. And he really earned his money right there, Brian.
Well, he did.
Or earned his money. I don't know if that's the right term, but go ahead.
Well, he got a T-shirt and a hat tonight, so
he
earned that tonight. Pelle has been underrated, I think, as a defensive player. He is, there's an argument there, I know, around that. The players don't talk about it, but some of us do. Okay, who's the best on-ball defender on this team? Is it Courtney Ramey? Is it Pelle Larsson? Is it Kylan Boswell? Is it Cedric Henderson? Okay, I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to tell you Pelle is really good. And part of it is because of his physical stature, that he can guard guys of different sizes, and he's quick enough a foot that he can guard guys with different speeds. So, yes, they made Jaquez work. And I was so happy for Zoo tonight. I know that this was not a one-on-one matchup with him and Jaquez tonight, but for him to be named the most valuable player after Jaquez got Player of the Year in the Pac-12, it couldn't have been better, and Zoo outplayed him on top of that.
All right, Brian, I know you're against the clock right now. Appreciate you stopping by, my guy.
Back the A.
Thanks, Ben.
Can we get you to say back the A on
Back
TV?
the A.
That's all we wanted right there. Make sure to
Okay.
timestamp that, guys, right
All right.
there.
I get to leave before you read the commercial, too.
Brian, we tried to get all of them out of the way before you came over right there so we could be totally focused.
All
but
right.
again, really appreciate you joining us throughout here.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
We
Brian.
will, we'll be. Don't worry, you haven't seen The Last of Us.
We'll see you next
Oh,
weekend.
really?
We'll be seeing you probably next week.
Okay. Well, what if the team ends up in Bangor?
You know,
no, there is no one there. I guess I will see you
there
next
is
week.
no, Brian. You're not getting away from us.
Okay.
All
right.
Appreciate you,
Thanks,
Brian. Voice of the Wildcats right there, Mr. Brian Jeffries, the GOAT, as we call him on this show. All right, Ben, I think Brian, though, hit the nail on the head. You've got 4 or 5 defensive players on this squad that on a given day can step up and really be that player right there. And again, Courtney Ramey has done that from time to time. Pella Larson, Sed Henderson, Kylan Boswell. Everybody does their own thing kind of when it matters. By the way, everybody out there, spread the word. We're at 294. Let's try to push this to 300. Back the A, spread the word. Ben White, go ahead.
Yeah, I think when you look at the defense, just from Larson tonight, it's not only Larson. I think it's a collective effort, like you said, Mike. And I think what's so cool about the way that these guards play, even if they're not making shots for the most part, you see this in a lot of younger guys. And Ramey and Henderson don't count as much just because they have more time and they're more experienced. But you see it with a lot of guards, especially in the Pac-12. I think ASU is a good example. Whereas when these guys aren't making shots, you see the confidence lack, and you see that area kind of deteriorate in other parts of their game.
Right.
Arizona doesn't have that issue.
Nope.
Arizona gets into passing lanes. They force turnovers. Like Brian said, that Larson offensive rebound was bigger than anything in this game. And as long as you have a guy who's willing to step up, and I think somebody in Lloyd who knows that you can throw 4 or 5 of these guys out there in and out of the lineup, and you know you're going to get something. Your odds are pretty well stacked in this favor. Arizona doesn't have that one clutch card. They obviously don't have a Dalen Terry or a Benedict Mathurin, but they've got enough pieces out there to cause problems any given night.
Yes. Now, also, one thing, I don't think that anyone thought that we were going to see the third peak out there. We did see the third peak out there, Henry Vasar. Now, granted, it wasn't the fourth peak, but we can't always have the fourth peak out there. The fourth peak, though, is Four Peaks, the official brew of PHNX Sports. Now, you might say to yourself, Mike, what's so great about the Four Peaks? Kilt Lifter. Kilt Lifter, very, very good drink. I've been telling people about this for years. A member of the Four Peaks family right there. Ben White, you like Kilt Lifter.
Kilt Lifter is very good.
We're going to actually I have in my mini fridge in my room, I actually have a few Kilt Lifters. This is true.
Yes, it is.
All right. So, again, now you might say to yourself, Mike, tell me a little bit more about Four Peaks. Where could I find a little bit of Four Peaks? You know the best place. Go to Tempe location, spend it in St. Patty's Day. Again, Four Peaks, 8th Street Pub, of course. Hang out with your favorite degenerates and enjoy a damn good time. Must be 21 years of age or older.
Or if you're in Tucson, Mike, where do you get it?
Oh, you can get it at Tap and Bottle. They have it right there as well. But let's just say that you're saying to yourself, man, I'd love to see Shane Diefenbach in action sometime. That's where you would go. You might be able to find him at the Four Peaks Brewery right there. So again, Four Peaks right there. Great stuff. I'd love to. You guys will appreciate it. All right, now this is a big deal in my opinion, though, for Arizona because you're probably going to stay out west. We're probably going to get to bother Brian Jeffries next week. Hopefully in Sacramento. But Ben, you want to stay out west because Arizona fans travel. That obviously is a key part of this equation.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think Arizona fans are going to travel if it's somewhere like Sacramento, even somewhere like Denver. It's looking
Ben White,
like
hometown Sacramento right there.
Absolutely. If you need food spots in Sacramento,
go to Ben White's house.
Well, I guess you could. I guess you could. But no, I think Arizona, it all comes down to the West, right? And then you kind of take it from there. You see what matchups kind of swing in your favor. And at that point, you're in a pretty good spot just because you know that you have the region locked down. You have the bracket locked down. And we'll see. Maybe we can get Purdue in there as a 1 seed.
Right.
I mean, I was looking at this on Twitter. And
I would love it. All the Big Ten garbage teams, we want all of them in our bracket.
When is the last time people have openly come out and said, yeah, I want a 1 seed in the second round?
Right.
Or especially a team in the Big Ten.
I will take any of it. We've talked about this from day one. The Big Ten sucks. They're going to get 30 teams in. I want every single one of them in the region. I've already done my DraftKings read, but I'm going to tell you another one right here. I would go on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX, and I would parlay against all of the Big Ten teams right there because they stink and they're all going to get knocked out. I hope that Arizona gets them right there, Ben White.
I hope so, too. I really hope so.
Now, let's talk a little bit then about Kirk Risa. It's going to be – because Arizona needs him. He is the epitome of a guy. He drives people crazy. Let's be honest. He drives me crazy. But game after game, he's the guy that can go 2 of 12 from the field. But guess what? Those 2 shots right there are generally the biggest shots of the game.
Yeah, and that's why you keep him in. I mean, you say what you want about the shooting struggle, say what you want, but like we talked about earlier, whether it's Kriisa, whether it's Ramey, or any of these other guards, everybody brings a different skill set to the table. And, Kerr may not be the most athletic guy, may not be the biggest guy, may have some trouble staying in front of guys like Tyger Campbell. Totally get all that.
Right.
But Kriisa's a guy who comes in, runs that offense so well, and can pass the ball inside. And if you're Arizona, you want to work inside out, and like they say when you're in a shooting slump, right, you keep shooting. And that's what he did tonight, and he made the biggest shots in the biggest moments.
Yep, and that's really what he did. Again, we talk about confidence all the time, and I will ask you guys this. Do you think maybe if Matt Muehlbach, if you could maybe steal him, he'll come over if you get him? Maybe just to get him for a minute here, if you can. But again, if Matt Muehlbach is too cool for us, then again, which he really isn't, but either way. Arizona, though, this was going into this year, I thought this was going to be a top 15 to 25 team. Under no circumstances.
And even that was a little bit of a stretch, right?
Yeah, I just didn't. They were preseason ranked like 17, but I never really looked at them and said, all right, that could be a 1 or a 2 seed out west. And maybe there were some people out there. I'd love to see some of your comments. Again, it's a little bit more difficult when we're on remote, so we can't get to all of them right here. But this team to me is drastically overachieved. Tommy Lloyd right here was the National Coach of the Year last year. I believe that he's done a better job this year, Ben White.
Yeah.
And I think that you saw that out there today.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely saw it today. Obviously, the team was ranked a lot lower. You lose 3 guys to the NBA, and you deal with not necessarily the injuries that they had last year, but I think you just deal with more inconsistencies and less reassurance in the sense that going into the year, you didn't know if you were going to get out a lot of these guys outside of Tubelis. Ballo is somebody, obviously, most improved player in the conference. That's a big deal. Somebody who goes up, does game in and game out what you need to on the inside. And then I think the biggest thing, no matter what happens between those 2 bigs, and as important as they are, it's the guards.
Right.
Ramey is a guy who came in, 5th-year guy from Texas. We knew he could average, 9 to 10 points a game and, kind of be a spot-up shooter, but he's done so much more. I mean, these guys have taken these assignments to heart on the defensive side, the offensive side, and that's what you got to love.
Right, and getting a lot of questions about how, and again, I am not on the tournament selection show. I know that might be hard to believe, or I am not on the committee either, but I do believe they're going to be out west. I believe when you're a program, again, this isn't ASU we're talking about. When this year a program like Arizona, you have the cachet you do, and we're at 299. Let's get to that 300. Spread the word. But when you have the cachet that Arizona does, and you have the resume that they do, this is, I think it's hard not to put them out west, honestly, Ben White.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be damn near impossible. You're going to be out west, but
that's as affirmative as Ben White will get on something if he says it's damn near impossible. I like it there, Ben.
Yeah, I think the question is, right, are you going to be in a 2 or 3, and what does that bracket shake out? But I think when you look at the quad 1 wins and you look at the way things have shooken out, especially out west with the Pac-12 and especially a team like Gonzaga and some of these other West Coast schools, nobody has a better resume than Arizona.
And big picture, when you're looking at the NCAA tournament, the one thing, though, is there's nobody out there that scares you. There's nobody where you're like, oh, gosh, don't really want to play them. Now, again, there's teams that might match up a little bit better with Arizona. But, Tennessee is a much different team than UCLA. Indiana, Big Ten, they're still a good team, though. Yes, garbage, as we like to say on this show. They're still a better team, though. There's a lot of teams out there that Arizona has beaten that are just different. But what Arizona has also shown, though, too, is that they can struggle sometimes against some of the poorer teams on their schedule.
Yeah.
But they also end up beating the really good teams on their schedule. And guess what? It's NCAA tournament time, and you're going to be playing good teams at that point.
No, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, right? I mean, Arizona historically
By the way, thank you, everyone. We're 311. You guys are awesome. Go ahead.
Keep it up. But, yeah, Arizona historically has played down to their competition, and the great thing about this time of year is it matters. You're dialed in. And, this game, Tennessee, Indiana, San Diego State, like you said, Mike, all very different teams. And on paper, I think people maybe looking outside in or looking just at the individual aspects of Arizona's roster would say, oh, maybe Arizona doesn't match up very well with this team, or maybe there's going to be some issues here or there. But I think what's so cool and special about this team is they've played in so many different ways to get different types of wins this year.
Yes.
Whether it's tonight against UCLA only scoring 61 points, whether it's beating ASU by 85, speeding things up, going toe-to-toe with them offensively. It's just really different. I can't remember the last time, at least under a Miller team, and obviously Lute's a whole different animal, but I can't remember in recent memory a program that is just able to find so many different ways to win based off who they're going up against.
And again, 61-59. How many times have we heard, well, Tommy Lloyd's teams, they're just run and gun. They can't really win those games when it really matters. Can't defend, all of that nonsense. Tommy Lloyd said, you know what? Screw that. We are going to be able to do that right there. Now, I think we're going to have the great Matt Muehlbach come over here in just a second.
Yep.
But first, let's get the last read out of the way. Mountain Mike's Pizza. Again, as you know, I want to a lot of people think I'm Mountain Mike. Ben, we've been trying to dispel this misinformation campaign. I am not Mountain Mike because Mountain Mike has come up with pizza that I could never even think about coming up with. Very good pepperonis.
Oh, I know your pizza creations.
Oh,
they don't come even close.
They don't come even close. That's why Mountain Mike's has been a godsend for me. Now, you can go to Mesa, Chandler, or the Tucson location. What are the cross streets in Tucson?
Oracle and Wetmore.
Oracle and Wetmore, right there. Ben White knows. Ben White doesn't even live in Tucson, and he knows that one. Lunch buffet, and again, great food. Head over to mountainmikespizza.com, and again, check out the Mesa, Chandler, or Tucson locations to place your next order. Reminder, here's where it gets fun. Reminder, Diehards get a $50 voucher upon signing up. What better is it than that right there?
That's some good free pizza right there.
Oh, and look who it looks like we have coming over right now. The great Matt Muehlbach. The great Matt Muehlbach, Mr. Triple-Double himself. Matt.
Oh, shoot.
No, it's okay. Break whatever you want. Just make sure it's not my stuff. Matt,
Yes.
We talked all year. By the way, congratulations on another kick-ass year right there.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. You too.
Thanks,
you too.
man.
You
I
guys are
appreciate it.
crushing it here in Vegas.
Appreciate it, Matt. It's been a lot of fun. Matt, we talked all year where people are questioning whether Arizona can win games that aren't in the 90s or the 80s. We've seen now multiple times against really, really good teams that Tommy Lloyd has been able to win games. And look at this one, 61-59 right here.
Yeah, and you think about the other game they beat UCLA at home was 58-54 or 52 or whatever it was. So they lost the game in Pauley when it was in the 80s. So, look, Tommy Lloyd's, he's obviously a very young head coach. Mm-hmm. He's not a young coach because he's been a coach for 22 years or whatever it is. But he's a young head coach, but he understands what he's doing big time. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is he now, the winningest
by two games
in the history of basketball? I don't have to go much further than that.
And 2 years in, too.
I mean, that's good. That's good stuff. So now, Azuolas Tubelis. Now, I would have voted for Jaime Jaquez for the regular season for the Conference Player of the Year. But I also think that Azuolas Tubelis, not that he cares what I have to say. I don't even think he probably knows who I am. But 19-14 in a game like this, and again, it wasn't your typical efficient Zoo game, but especially in that first half, Matt, when they went to him down low, he was essentially automatic.
Well, and that's why, when we come to games, the nice thing about it is, and I see a lot of people, they just look at stat sheets.
Right.
But when you're at the game, you get a feel, you get the presence of what's really happening, and not even like a super crazy strategy, nerd ball, whatever, but you understand who's really making stuff happen on the court.
Right.
And when you watch it, you're like, Zoo's the man.
Right.
Like they're worried about Zoo. Everything they do is trying to cut him off. When he was getting buckets, it's like he's imposing his will, and everybody else getting points and things off of him playing through Zoo.
Let me ask you this. You played with who most people consider the best player in Arizona history, the great Sean Elliott. When you have a player like that is clearly the man in a game, how does it make things easier for the Matt Muehlbachs, for the Steve Kerrs, for the Pelle Larsons, for the Kirk Creases, guys like that, when you have one guy who is really, and again, not to compare him to Sean, but just comparing him from being that number one option type?
Well, in the scouting report, like when I knew going into those games, I was somewhere down the line, and I was hoping, like a lot of players, they didn't do their homework and didn't remember or didn't know how to spell my name.
Right.
But no, they're going to focus on him. With Sean, we were so lucky. Everybody focused on Sean. Gave me jump shots, gave me looks, gave me opportunities, and I think that's the same with Zoo. He. By the way, this is the other thing that people don't realize. Zoo fouled out their whole team practically.
Correct. Yes.
No front court.
Right.
They had no front court because of Zoo.
Exactly.
And partly Ballo, too. Give Ballo credit. I think, you and I talked about this, Mike, and that was Zoo had the little bit of a dip. Mm-hmm. And, look, it's hard to be perfect for whatever this season is, 5 or 6 months. But I thought when they went to L.A., he kind of got back. The Lithuanian locomotive got back on the track.
I love it, the Lithuanian locomotive.
He got back on the track. But the other guy that I thought was maybe not what he was early in the year was Umar Ballo. Mm-hmm. And Tommy Lloyd what do you call him, Maui-O?
Yes, Maui Ballo or something
Maui,
like that.
Yes, whatever it was. I thought it was cool. And I felt like in this tournament especially, and even, I guess this tournament, he seemed more like Maui-O.
Right.
It was a little bit more. Now, he didn't play perfect tonight. That wasn't his best game. It's a hard team to play. Sometimes big guys like that have a harder time playing against smaller, scrappy. Like it's,
guys that get up under you.
They're under you.
Yeah.
That's the right word.
Right.
When they get up under you, it's uncomfortable. So, but I just felt like the way he ran, how many minutes he played last night and tonight, he seemed a little bit more like that November Maui-O. All
right. Now, Matt, because we know you guys are going to probably party a little bit here, completion of season. Before we let you go, let me ask you this, though. What are, going into the tournament, let's just say, for example, Arizona's a 2 seed out west. I feel that this team could go to the Final Four, lose in the second round, but I'll tell you what, I think there's 20 other teams like that in college basketball as well.
Agreed, and that's the way college has changed. We don't see teams with, 5 seniors that have played together for 4 years, and guys that 3-4 NBA guys on the team. It's a lot of young NBA players, and maybe you get a couple transfers. And so because of that, they don't have the depth. They don't have that experience other than UCLA. I mean, that's probably the one exception. Although I feel terrible for them, those 2 injuries. But hey, shout out to UCLA. Are you kidding me?
Big time. Yeah. I was tweeting this all game. Let's just be honest here. That is a really good team right there.
It is. They are such a good team and so well coached. And I'll tell you what, they play with some of the best heart.
They take on their coach's embodiment right there.
They wear it on their sleeve.
Their identity, there's no one really that has as good of an identity, maybe in all of college basketball, as that UCLA team, and lives up to it and embraces the identity.
And to be able to win a game like this, and we were talking about Arizona's resume, it's a kick-ass resume. I mean, you've got now wins over UCLA twice. You've got to win over Tennessee. You got to win over Indiana. You got to win over Creighton. You got to win over San Diego State. It's about as good as it comes.
Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana, exactly. I won't hold the Big Ten alliance against them. But Matt, overall, but on a brighter note, I'd like to thank you a ton for coming on, my guy. Yeah. By the way, this is an awesome jacket. What is this?
Let's see. What is this?
What is this right here? All right.
A little heart.
I was going to say,
put it on your shopping list.
I was going to say, if you want to be like Mr. Triple Double, he just gave you some of the keys right there. But Matt, really appreciate you, my guy. I'll be in touch.
Always love you, Biggs. Thank you, man. You guys do a great job for Arizona basketball.
Right.
For basketball in general, Tucson, all the state basketball. So keep
just so you know, Matt Muehlbach has unlimited text. I can verify that because of how many times I text bothering him about stuff. So again,
appreciate all the comps too. This
year. Sure, no, for sure, Matt, for sure. So all right, you have a good time though tonight, my guy.
Go kill it.
Yep, you got it, dude. I'll hit you up. All right, appreciate it there, Matt. Talk to you soon, dude. All right. All right. Before we're going to sign off here in just a second, but I'd like to get everybody in here, though. Please, come on. You guys are the ones. Come on, Mac. Come on. Toe Tree, Sean, come on. Shane? What are you doing?
Shane's getting confetti, I think.
All right. These, honestly, it is a privilege. I live in Tucson. They're up in Phoenix. Get out of here with that nonsense. But, honestly, everybody here is the best. They make me look a lot better than I should on this one. And, again, this stuff doesn't happen without them. So, for Mac, for Sean, for Shane Diefenbach, for Toe Tree right there, again, appreciate it. We will be back with you. I'll be back with you tomorrow, selection show when I get back from Tucson. But, again, everybody out there, give them a big thanks because they've been absolutely fantastic. All right. We will talk with you tomorrow. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.